Thank you for joining us today. We are honored to have our duos, Dr. Yuri and then Dr. Kim Lowell. But you will be giving the presentation. But if you have any questions, you will be answering. That's the new, right? Yeah. So, but before I pass it on to Yuri, I will quickly read his bio. Yuri earned his doctorate in semiconductor physics in 1983 from the Russian Academy of Sciences. In 1991, he received the fellowship from the Royal Society of London to work at the Airborne University in Edinburgh on nonlinear phenomena in optics. He has worked at the CCOM-JHC since its inception, specializing in underwater optics, 3D object reconstruction, and remote sensing. Please join me in welcoming Yuri.
Thank you. I'd rather expect applause. Well, anyway, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming here. And this is the title of our Kim presentation. And I would like to say that when I say NOAA, I actually mean NOAA Remote Sensing Division, specifically the group that deals with LiDAR data processing, not the whole NOAA, but it just to be short. So, LiDARs, right? Okay, good. So I guess everyone knows what LiDAR is, and I don't spend time on that explanation, but this is the essential source of our information about the shallow and ultra shallow areas. So it is really, really important for the NOAA and for the rest of the world. So, okay, so NOAA processes this data, which comes in half a kilometer by half a kilometer tiles, and density of measurements changes in very wide range. And although they call them points, I don't like the word points because it has too many meanings. So I prefer the term geolocated LiDAR measurement, GLMs. So that's what I'm going to use here. So NOAA assigned flux to every GLM, and it's unclassified noise and extended bathymetry is what we are here interested in. So the data sets were taken in the Florida Keys area in 2019. It was a very, very thorough survey of this area after the Hurricane Irma, and that's what we concentrated on. So why we had doubts in the classification effectiveness, let's call it effectiveness, not the correctness, done by NOAA. So this shows just almost randomly taken 2 by 2 meters area where green dots are classified as bathymetry and red dots are classified as non-bathymetry. So I can imagine that this is an outlier. But what about the rest? So let's see what happens to these points. So from my point of view, there is no difference between them. So they should belong to the same class. They could be bathymetry, they could be not bathymetry, but why points, GLMs, which are essentially next to each other, are classified differently? So this is one reason why we had doubts, and this is the second reason. So this is a tile with this ID, which is UTM, and so this is a NOAA classified bathymetry GLMs. So if we look at the top view, it looks like that. So, and every single small dot here is a GLM, is an independent measurement. So if we look at this from the side, we see clearly two levels. So this could be bathymetry, this could be bathymetry, but this could not be everything bathymetry. Most likely, of course, bathymetry is the bottom side. So to compare with our processing of the same tile, this is it. So I think it makes much more sense than non-classified bathymetry. So the purpose of this research is rather than trying to figure out what goes wrong in NOAA's processing, we decided to develop the independent algorithm which would classify GLMs as bathymetric or non-bathymetric. So, to verify validity of their classification, and as it happens, we were able to densify the GLM's cloud that represent bathymetry. That was the second reason why we worked with that. So, okay. So about a year ago, we reported the algorithm proposed by us to extract bathymetry from ISAT-2 data. And so they have, instead of GLMs, they have so-called photon events, and the extraction algorithm was based on two main principles: density and structure. And structure quite often is overlooked or underestimated by many researchers. So that was the essence of the algorithm. I will just remind you, or explain to those who were not present at this presentation. So we took a single photon event and surrounded with several ellipses of different radii, and dissected it, the space with several segments, and counted photon events in every cell. And this allows us to convert this structure into a vector. This is the vectorization process. And this vector is something that we can feed into machine learning algorithm and get something hopefully from it. So here, of course, that was the essentially two-dimensional along track versus height. LiDAR has 3 dimensions, and that's why we had to extend it in the 3D case, and we chose Goldberg polyhedron, which is basically it's a well-known soccer ball. So it has 32 faces. We used again 3 concentric polyhedrons plus height, and this gave us in vectorization the 97 long vector. So this is how this polyhedron looks like in rotation. So as data sets, at first we chose just random these few tiles from Florida Keys area, and of course to train the model we needed ground truth data. And from the very beginning we decided that we are not going to use NOAA classification because we wanted something independent, and then we needed manual classification, of course. And so the preparation of the data was happening in the following manner. So we assumed that we know what bathymetry is. We selected some tiles without land because it will just make a little bit more difficult. Then manually marked GLMs that constitute shallow bathymetry from our point of view, and calculate vectors for each GLM, which and then we can machine learning. So the manual classification with jump is pretty hard because if we take the bell slice, which is 500 meters wide, then nobody can say what is bathymetry and what isn't. So if we take 50 meters, we can say for sure that there is a bathymetry, but still not quite clear which GLMs are bathymetric and which are not. If we use 5 meters, it's quite clear what is bathymetry, what isn't. So we just selected the GLMs that is bathymetry from our point of view, and that allowed us to train the model. So to train the model, we used light GPM as in the light gradient boosting machine, as in the case of ISAT-2 data, and the model accuracy, which is essential for every training procedure, is going like that. So we start with raw LiDAR data. We use some polyhedron parameters. Then we vectorize the data using the procedure that I explained earlier. And vectorized data is divided into two parts, training and testing. The training is used to train the model, and the model is applied to testing data. And that gives us accuracy as a result of comparison of prediction of the model and what we decided manually. So, and from now on, let's forget about the manual processing. We are talking only about the prediction. So we have a model, we train the model somehow, and then so the prediction of the model applied to certain data set is what we are talking about from now on. So is the model related to true bathymetry? No, it's not. It's related to experts' perception of bathymetry. So we are not going to say that the model is saying the absolute truth. No. But if the experts are good enough and the data is good enough and the vectorization process is good enough, then we can expect that the model predicts something reasonable and useful. So model quality, testing accuracy was really, really good. So you can see that it's almost 100% for like 17 or something randomly taken tiles. And only these two gave, well, 92%, which is not that bad, but it's strange. Why? Why the heck is others are so good and this is so much worse? And so we investigated this case and figured out that it was the expert's fault, actually. So could you really say in this slice, which is 25 meters wide, where bathymetry is and what isn't? So, okay, this is bathymetry. This definitely is not, but what about that? It's pretty hard to say. So that is the reason why some models have, well, 92%, yeah, it's not that bad, but still it's worse than others. So the cross-validation is the most important thing here. So because what it means that we train model on one data set and then apply it to another data set. So if it's applicable, it's good. If it's not applicable, it's not good. So, and cross-validation is done in the standard way again. We have two data sets, 1 and 2. We train models, 1 and 2, and then get two sets of predictions. Prediction 1, 1, 1, prediction 1, 2. And then we compare the results of predictions. And all the GLMs that are predicted fall in one of three categories. Coincident. Coincident means that both models say it's bathymetry, or it's both models said it's not bathymetry. Then there is another case when, oh, sorry. Oops. The only own model, only this model says that it's bathymetry, and the other model says it's not. So they disagree. And this is also disagreement, but in the other way around. So, so of course, the more coincident predictions, the better. So results for random tiles were very encouraging. So they were ranging from like 99% to 87%, and these are completely random tiles. So green is coincident. Here, own model predicts more bathymetry, and red is when the other model says it is bathymetry. So, please pay attention to that one. It says harmonics. It's not a tile. It's a model trained on synthetic data. I will be talking about that a little bit later. So, however, we came across a tile which gave amazingly low coincident rate. So it was like from 50% to down to 15%. So what is going on? So we looked at that tile on the Google Earth. This is tile. So we decided, okay, we'll take a tile which looks similar to that. This one. And just for the heck of it, let's choose another tile which is different, looks dissimilar. And then cross-validate against these tiles. But before talking about the results for these tiles, I'll talk about other tiles. So these, again, the same. These are similar tiles. This is dissimilar tile. And so we tried cross-validation between them, and the results were that. So the arrow here means we take this model and apply to this data set. So this arrow means we take this model and apply it to that data set. So here, these are similar tiles, and percentage of coincidence is pretty high, over 90. And here is relatively low. It's like 37 up to 75, which is far from being 90 plus. So, and then we thought, okay, so if they look similar in RGB, in Google Earth, then what if we use more bands to compare tiles? And we used Sentinel-2. Out of 13 bands that it has, we used 10 because they have the same resolution. And so we assume that spectral signature consists of 10 points, and each tile was averaged over for each band. So thus we end up with signature consisting of 10 points. And surprise, surprise, similar tiles have similar signatures, and dissimilar has different signature. There are many metrics that could be used to compare similarity and dissimilarity between the curves. And we just chose one of them is the area between the curves. And it's quite clear that here between similar, the area is much, much smaller than between dissimilar signatures. So now if we go back to the difference between signatures, we can see that between similar tiles, the difference is relatively small. and here and here differences are much larger. So it's not surprising that these have high rate of coincidence, and here it's not. But that was a straightforward case. And now we'll return to the weird tile that I was talking before. So again, I'll remind you where they are, and again, similar tiles have similar signatures, and this tile has quite different signature. But if we look at the cross-validation, we'll see that this is obvious. They are similar. But here we have 99% of coincidence. Why? So we have possible explanation for that. So tiles 1 and 2 have GLM structures that are present in tile 3, which is mostly flat, and these have channels in it. And tile 3 does not have channels, does not have structures. So that's why these models work pretty well on that one, but not the other way around. So now we get to the comparison of our results with the prediction of NOAA. So what are the values of interest? So suppose these and that is the same data set. So there are GLMs that are classified as bathymetry by NOAA and by LIGBM model. These are the same for non-bathymetry. But LIGBM says that all these GLMs are bathymetry. So these are added to the bathymetry which has been detected by NOAA. And of course, there are false negatives. Well, they are sort of. They are false negatives only if we consider NOAA classification as a truth, which is not. So, but these bathymetric GLMs, we are missing somehow. We do not detect them as bathymetry. So we are interested in these and that. So addition to the NOAA classified bathymetric GLMs, sometimes it's almost 80%, almost doubles the number of GLMs that are classified as bathymetry. Sometimes it's lower, it's like 20%. But so why just 20? Maybe because NOAA classification is pretty good in this case, and we have nothing to add. And this is percent that we missed. They said it's bathymetry, we say it's not. So sometimes more often than otherwise, we have nothing to add. Like sometimes nothing at all, sometimes fraction of the percent. But in some cases, we have like 15%. And we frankly don't know why this is happening. And this is still needs to be investigated. But on average, it's like about 3%. But it's not that much of a deal. So what we propose is to take Sentinel-2's signatures, get it as a library. They are very different, as you can see. And the flowchart, processing flowchart could be like that. So we take a LiDAR tile, calculate Sentinel-2 signature, find the signature which is closest to that from our library and use the corresponding model for classification. That's one of the possible processing flow charts. So what we else can do, actually the Sentinel-2 for each band values. Sentinel has, we used resolution 20 meters pixels. So 20 meters and 500 meters, there are lots of pixels, Sentinel pixels, and they are not the same. We use just averages. So what if we won't use averages, but instead we use histograms for each band? So in this case, we have these bands, and we used 20 bins of histogram. And we can see that in many cases there's nothing. So for these bands, it's here. For these bands, it's mostly here. Maybe two-dimensional spectral signature is more useful than one-dimensional that we used. But again, we did not investigate this in details. We have to remember that there are different flight lines. Sometimes it's just 2 over a tile. Sometimes it's 4. In this case, it's 4. And you can imagine that although the water surface levels are pretty close, maybe that is affecting our results. But most likely we came to a conclusion that it is not, because this is a slice from clearly 2 different flight lines. This is a water level here, water level here, but as bathymetry, it's pretty consistent, it's continuous. So we don't think that water level is actually affecting anything seriously. So I was talking about synthetic data, and so we just, for fun, used these 2 types. One is just peaks, another is harmonics. So what if we take these harmonics and train data on that? Because here we know exactly where's bathymetry is green and where is not. So it's not clear how it is corresponding to NOAA classification. Sometimes harmonics give very, very good result. Here, harmonics would give reasonable result, but peaks give 100%. But most of the time, it's not really useful. So what if we train a model on all 17 tiles? Well, my computer could not handle more than 17. So I had to resort with that. So it is actually better than any particular model. So you can see that most of them are above 99%. And these 2 are outliers. 90% is not bad either, but still they are much smaller. Why? We did not investigate very closely. We tried also to change. Yeah, I have to say that polyhedron size was like 3 polyhedrons, 1 meter, 2 meters, and 3 meters. So what if we take and increase the polyhedron sizes from 3 to 6 to 9? False negatives decrease, false positives decrease. And what is strange a little bit, ratio of false negative to false positive is also decreasing. I don't know why, but maybe it's not. But it's clear that larger polyhedrons give better results, although, of course, training takes much longer than smaller polyhedrons. So possible future improvements are combined training data. So, and before I just combined these random tiles, models from random tiles. If we take different tiles with different topographies, maybe that will give more potent model. Then we can use the two-dimensional signature, Sentinel-2 signature, as I was explaining earlier, and we also can try to develop a more sophisticated synthetic data, because with ISAT data, synthetic data gave really good results. Maybe here we need to do a little bit further. So, and I'll just wanted to show the results of our processing of two tiles. So this is one tile with the channel. This is another tile with a more complex system of channels and a deeper channel. And obviously, this is the coincidence rate, 99%. 89% is not that bad, but obviously this tile has much more different features than that one. So it's not surprising that model trained on that gives better results on this data set than the other way around. Thank you. Now, questions.
Question, please.
So, great project. You were talking about like we tested that model on that number of tiles, and I think it was like 5, then 17. Did you try to test it on like hundreds of thousands? Because as far as I understand, that data set has thousands of tiles.
Oh yeah, lots and lots. But we had no idea how to approach that, and well, ideally, it would be better to take every single tile and process it manually, and it will take a long time. So it's not possible. So that's why we tried to figure out, is it possible to develop a model for one tile and apply it to many other tiles, which have similar topography.
Yeah, but like here you're talking about the manual process of, okay, that is bathymetry, that is not bathymetry. I'm talking about when you train that, then you can apply for all tiles because you have a known.
How can you train it without ground truth data?
Not train, but apply to like say, oh, yeah, our model is saying that's bathymetry and that is a water.
Yeah.
So you apply it.
So I was showing here the results of cross validation. That's exactly it. We take like 17, 20 models and apply it to one tile and see what the model trained on this tile says and what other models say. And the coincidence rate was pretty good, except for this weird tile, which had features, structures, which did not exist in other tiles. And that's why the rate of coincidence was pretty low. But we found another tile which looked similar, and it had similar spectral signature. So that's why the flow chart was saying that look for a similar signature and use the model to predict what is bathymetry and what isn't. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks. I was curious about the Goldman polyhedron you mentioned. It sounded like you're using it to classify into zones where the points are being located, right? And I guess I was curious what the motivation, what is the advantage of that particular shape instead of using something similar like an icosahedron or like a
right. Okay. Yeah. I have to say that I tried two other shapes, isohedron, which has 20 faces, but 32 seemed a reasonable compromise between complexity and simplicity. But I'm pretty sure if you use other, it may take longer or it may take be faster, and probably by using lesser number of phases, we will get worse accuracy. That's my guess. But it's clear that when you take the bigger polyhedrons, the model gets better. So probably if we take something with, actually, we know from ISAT-2 data that we cannot use too many sectors. So, this convex cones. Convex cone is something which goes from the center to the plane. Right? If we take too many convex cones, many of them will be empty. And so they won't add anything to the classification procedure. So too few, bad. Too many, bad. So you have to find some. So we just experimented with one of.
Have to be good balance.
Okay. Yes? You have a question? No?
Juliet, did you have a question?
Couple of questions.
Sorry.
Have you thought about those you're basically chopping up your data into little pieces, right? Little areas.
Sorry?
You're basically chopping up your data into smaller areas.
Let's say cells. Three-dimensional
Little
cells.
density cell, right?
Yeah.
Have you done anything with looking at sort of the spectral density of points and how they're distributed in those cells?
Yes, we did, but it didn't seem to give any interesting results. So we were looking at a number of nearest neighbors in at different distances, but it didn't seem to give any reasonable results because it lacks structure. So look at the area just next to the surface, water surface. There are lots and lots of noise. What's the difference between this noise and bathymetry? Not density, structure. Only structure. Density could be as big, as high as in bathymetric case, but there is no structural component in that.
Is there a depth density?
Hmm?
Is there a depth density structure that pops out if you ran that kind of analysis?
Well, the water surface is a very dense and very highly structured formation. And that's why when we were developing training the model, to the vectorization process, we added height. Height is essential because otherwise it will almost always find the water surface. But we know that it should not be surface. So that's why we added height to avoid this problem. Yes.
I liked your presentation. This is way different than what I do, so this is all interesting. When you said flight lines, do you mean there's literally different measurement heights?
Yeah, well, what they do, the Airborne Lidar, they were using scanning, they were using rotational scanning, many different approaches, but obviously if they want certain density of measurements, then they have to fly at certain height. So the coverage is limited, and coverage is way less than 500 meters. So that's why the tiles that NOAA is giving us are half a kilometer by half a kilometer. So it's not surprising that sometimes they were covered in different days. And in this particular area, the tides are not very prominent, but in others are very much so. And the difference would be meters.
That answers your question. I have a follow-up question, which is that have you looked at specific tiles that have multiple flight lines to see if that improves the accuracy of your?
Well, it looks like it's not, and I was showing that this slice, which definitely had different flight lines, and the difference was like half a meter at least. But nevertheless, the detected bathymetry was not broken. It seemed to be continuous. So what happens from my point of view is that when the light goes through water surface, it still hits the same sea bottom. And solving for all these corrections of the plane and solving for the ray location, that's what all done before us. And it doesn't really matter where water is if it ends up in the same point eventually. Yes.
With your approach of cross-validating using the spectrally similar tiles, is there any concern of spatial autocorrelation there? Like the tiles close to each other might end up just having more similar signatures because the same.
Yeah, well, sometimes they do. More often than not, they do. When we are talking, but actually it happens for the tiles which do not have bathymetry at all. I mean, it does, but it's not being detected because it's too deep, or water is too polluted. Did I answer the question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So using the signatures to identify similar tiles and selecting one of them allowing to be a practical solution we can't train over massive tiles. But am I understanding correctly? You said if you train on as many tiles as you can fit into your computer, the model gets better.
Yeah.
Is it reasonable to assume that would continue as a process? So if we could find out working over all the tiles, we just have one Uber model that would do the
I believe so. Yeah, because the crucial point here is to choose tiles of very different topographies.
Yeah. So the more diversity you have in your training set,
the more diverse, the better. And get them together, train one model, and it will be the reasonable, best possible answer.
When you're computing the central two signatures, your argument was that there were different structures in the different tiles that you saw, and tiles with similar structures did better. And even if the donor model had some of the structures, it did better than if it had none of the structures. How do you think the sentinel, the band average across the entire tile is capturing structure? Because you lose all spatial sense.
It's not.
So what is it capturing that makes it?
Yeah, I don't know. Frankly, I don't know. What we were thinking is that if visually similar, I mean Google Earth, tiles work, cross-validate well, then if we use something more sophisticated like the signature, it may work even better. It may. We don't. We have some indications that it does, But I think that actually two-dimensional spectral signature will work even better. Might.
May capture some
Yes.
spatial structure,
Yeah.
or you could do some sort of
Yeah.
second order statistics within these
Yeah.
correlation within the tiles, the
Yeah.
band correlations.
The first idea was just to take for each band, take average over the entire. And then I was amazed to see how different they are.
Yeah.
And so obviously two-dimensional signatures are a much better approach, but we did not investigate it thoroughly.
I'm wondering if you did the correlation matrix across the bands, pixel to pixel,
Yeah,
whether that or assigning values might be
yeah,
distinct.
absolutely.
Correct vectors.
Yeah. That should be interesting, definitely.
Any more questions? I think we have one online. This is from Imo. He's saying in future work, if the model demonstrates improvement according to your expert classifications, is there a way to map those improvements to NOAA classification for purposes of adoption? Yeah, like so what he's saying is once you've improved the model, in the future, are you planning to map that like into what NOAA is doing so that they can adopt that into their workflow? So his question is now like you're kind of like comparing with NOAA's model, the way they're kind of doing the classification. In the long run, once you are like, oh, this is you've done, like you are satisfied with what you've trained, are they going to adopt it?
No, I see. I don't think that NOAA is aware of this approach, and this is just we tried an alternative way, and for some purposes it may be useful, but they may say that it's too much of a work and stick to. Although I was showing some blunders of NOAA classification, which I was surprised to see. It does not always happen. Sometimes they do a very decent job, but sometimes it's amazing.
Yeah, and how maybe like a follow question like from myself now, like how bad, like what's in terms of the improvement, like that, like I mean your own improvement, when you use your model, like how bad like is NOAA's model, and if they adopt yours, like you think you'll be getting a lot, or it's.
Well, I'll be happy to explain and to pass them everything that Kim and I were working on, whether they be interested in it or not. We'll see.
Yeah. Any more questions? Jere, do you have one?
Yeah. If you were training models to identify kind of three main surfaces, the water, whatever the structure is in the water column, and then this bottom, do you think that would create a different?
No, I don't think so. As I said, water surface is a very much structured element, and so is bathymetry. Whatever happens in water column is completely uncorrelated. It does not have structure. It's completely random, and so it is easy to separate. But there is no reason to invent a new category.
Well,
by the way,
category, but not usually.
it's pretty hard to find the water surface from the data that NOAA is supplying. In reality, there are two beams, red and green. And red gives us reflection from water surface. So we know exactly where water surface is, but we don't have this information. And that's why I was trying to figure it out from the GLMs. And it does not work well always. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, with that, let's thank you once again.